How's it going, everybody? First show of the day. We've only got 3 scheduled today. We got 5 tomorrow. I think 6 on Saturday, and I think we got 4 on Friday. So it's a big week leading up to the Lionsgate. We thought it was important to load up the programming with as many of our friends as possible, and our new friends, like the one that's about to come on. I've not met Nicola Russell. I've heard a lot of good things about her, and I've observed some things that she does, that she puts out there, that are very powerful. So we're going to get to know her. I'm going to pull her up now and get to know her and see what's going on her end of the great unveiling. Here we go. Oh, you're muted. Wait, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Hi.
How are you? I feel like I've known you. I've been watching your videos.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
How's it
I'm
going?
really excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me on this.
Absolutely.
On here.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
It's good to see you. How's it go? How things going? Are you in London? What part of
I'm probably about an hour away from London, so I'm in Tunbridge at the moment. I've just moved here about a month ago, so I'm sort of settling in a new environment. So yeah, so sort of I used to be more of the countryside, and now I'm sort of placed right in the middle of the town. So I was sort of guided to sort of move in this direction, which my ego was like, why? But there's reasons why I'm here. But hey, you've got to go with the flow of it, haven't you?
Well, there's a lot of people finding themselves in the same situation, that have been mobile or living in a certain place, and now they're found themselves, kind of stuck from the human side. But from the soul side, it's, I guess, you're there doing what a lot of them are doing. It's holding up light in what might be a dense atmosphere where people need it.
Yeah, it's quite funny actually, because I was sort of doing some meditation, and I was sort of guided to go and have a little walk along the high street where there are people around, and it was quite funny because I was sort of connecting in and feeling that I was sending pulses of light, like one of these sort of superheroes, just.
But I think that's a big part of what we're doing is the things, and so many ladies, and I say it all the time, but so many ladies have been doing this for 10, 15, 20 years, in solitude, quietly, nobody's paying attention to them. But I think this is what's happening. I think it's not necessarily the words or the shows or the posts or it's the actual physical coordinates of the soul, illuminating its energetic field. And that's can't be, now number one, it can't really be seen, but it certainly can be felt and understood. And number two, they're certainly not going to get any press. And it can't be stopped.
Nicola is walking down the high street and she's pounding out some energy out there. It's not going to come on the news, is it?
Yeah. So I saw an interesting video that you did where you just kind of like let your hair down in the multi-dimension your multidimensionality came out.
I
That
love doing
was
that.
that was
Did
very
you
cool.
did you
Yeah,
see the transfiguration? Did you see the face and the? It's almost like you like you've been on a bit of a psychedelic sort of hit or something, and your
I
eyes
didn't
go
see
like,
that. I didn't see that because I was working as I was listening, and I was kind of watching, but it was on the small screen because I was working on
ah,
the computer. But I have seen that before. I've seen it in other people, and I've seen it in myself, and the people have seen it in myself. And I think that's another thing we're going to start seeing. We're going to start seeing some of the things that we only saw in dimension with our other aspects start
yeah,
occurring with each other in the
yeah,
living flesh, you know?
yeah. Yeah, yeah, and it's important to know that, that. And I listened into Scarlett's
Mm,
yesterday, and it was sort of really exciting to, sort of really sort of start to embody. And you were sort of talking about embodiment, and it's
yeah,
not only the human body in that the ego needs to be in the body, but it's also anchoring in the multidimensional aspects
yeah.
in body, which is the next sort of next phase of our evolution, which
Absolutely,
is
it is. I mean, it's already started, but and and then I always have these human questions, which is, uh, how do you do that? How do you embody the multidimensionality?
okay.
You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah,
seriously. I mean, I would
yeah.
imagine there's countless ways to do it. Such as, for instance, light language. Light language that comes in, organically.
Hmm.
That's not forced, or an artistic expression, like talking with Scarlett yesterday, which was a fascinating conversation, by the way.
Mm. Yeah,
I really
loved her
enjoyed
energy.
it.
Mm.
Yeah, both of you have this very similar energy, but yeah, I don't know. What's your take on that? How do we embody multidimensionality?
I think the absolute word for me is the word surrender.
Yeah.
Um, so academically, I am not sort of switched on academically. I was at school, I was an okay student, so I never really sort of got to that point where I was sort of bombarded with loads of information outside of myself.
Yeah.
And as I sort of like went through life and bumbled along, and then sort of got to my trauma ignition phase of my life, like
Right.
we all do, and you just sort of like, you're just sort of like, what is going on? Um, then I started on this sort of journey that then enabled me to start embodying aspects as I was going. So I was really drawn to be doing Reiki. That was my first port of call on energy work. And as I started to practice that, it organically was presented to me, because I sort of really, I think it's in my template, to be honest with you, Todd.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think sometimes our template would be that you would be really very logical minded, and that you'd be switched onto that because that's in your written template.
Yeah.
And then some of us would be, sort of bumping along in life, doing the mumsy type things, and then all of a sudden wake up. That then you then start to feel that these things have started being presented in, and it's accepting that and allowing it to happen.
Yeah.
So the my first integration of my multidimensional self was through practicing Reiki, and my angelic self came through first. And a lot
Now,
of
were
people actually
you?
get to that.
I've heard a lot of people, and I've heard Morgan comment on this too to me several times. She'll say Reiki got a lot of people into, well, essentially to what you're saying.
Mm.
Now, are you saying that the angelic came in as you were working on people, or did you use it on yourself? Okay, so as you were working on people.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I was practicing on my husband at the time, which he didn't particularly. He doesn't understand any of this. So I was bringing in some energy for him, having sort of practice, and my hand started to have a world of its own, started sort of moving, and I just watched it because I just thought, oh, well, that's intriguing. What's happening there? Does that normally happen? So I let it, I surrendered to the process. And I think that's what we need to be doing, is
Yeah.
surrender totally to the whole experience.
Yes.
And then as that then sort of developed, the next time I did it, my hands started moving like this. And then I had a meditation. And at that time, I was really deeply into meditation. I was doing like 4 hours a day down
Wow.
the bottom of the garden. And I was like, go away from me, stop it. And I was like a sponge.
Did
It was like,
you, were you in like a sitting position? I mean, because I When I think
Yeah.
about, I never have been able to do that very well. I'd have to lay down in the early years. This is going back like almost 30 years ago.
Mm.
But when I woke up in 2011, I did a lot of walking. I did like, several miles, 8, 10 miles
Wow.
a day walking. And I realized later I was
That was
communing the
your,
entire time. Yeah. But were
that
you
was your
sitting the whole
therapy.
time?
I
Full?
was I wasn't sitting cross-legged because my legs would have gone a bit numb. No, I was
Mhm.
sitting on a bench
Yeah. Yeah.
at the bottom of the garden, and at the time I was sort of living right in the middle of a sort of countryside with all sort of trees around me and stuff. So it was a really nice sort of pleasant sort of location. But whilst I was doing that, I actually had a Kundi awakening at that time, which was weird. I actually felt the energy come up from my base, and it felt like great big golf balls of energy moving up through me. So I knew something that was going on, and it was all going a little bit crazy, and I thought I was going a little bit mad. And as I sort of had this Kundi awakening, and the hand started going off, my husband thought he was going to commit me into hospital at the time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So how long ago was this?
That was, oh my God, that must have been about 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. But yeah, it's about 4 years. You lose track of time,
I
don't
know
you?
you do. Absolutely.
Like, was it? It
Now,
was
did
around about
did
there.
you guys? I'm just curious as far as like the dynamics of it. Did you guys
Yeah.
stay together? Did y'all stay together?
No, I left him in January.
Okay, so well, there's a lot. That's the truth, though. There's a lot of that, and even with people I know that have connected in the last, let's say, 2, 3, 4 years, there's been some splits. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of pressure on a couple, and I think it was oh my God, I just forgot her name. The one that was on yesterday that you were talking about, Ireland.
Scarlett.
Scarlett, yeah, I should
Yeah.
be able to remember that. And
Yeah.
so, but I think she mentioned that. Now she stayed together, but they were separated at time separations and all. But that's
Mm.
interesting that you started doing the Reiki on your husband at the time, and you got woke, and then it goes on from there. How,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So he goes on a business trip.
Mm.
So I started like really sort of going with the hand movements, thinking, okay, it's a little bit crazy, but I was feeling that it felt right in the heart. And I then sort of thought, well, okay, so if there's that, can this hand go? So then this hand started. And then my husband was on a on a business trip, thankfully, and I think they timed it quite well because I set up about 3 o'clock in the morning and just started speaking light language.
Wow.
I just sat up and it just went, just all came out, and I thought, okay, right, okay, thank you.
So, what did you think about that when that happened? I'm asking you because I know there's people
Yeah,
that are waking up in the same way.
yeah. I knew I had this absolute knowing in my heart that it was right.
Yeah.
I had these sort of visitations from spirit because I was sort of dealing with a lot of spirit at the time, sort of passing people over, and it was very much that sort of level, that dimension that I was working with at the time. And then the galactics stepped in after the angelics, which was wonderful, which was absolutely wonderful. And they were doing sort of conscious upgrades at night on me as well, which was quite surreal. And you're trying to integrate whilst the husband's laying in the bed next to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
luckily Luckily he was a bit deaf, so when he took his hearing aids out, he couldn't hear anything.
So, did he ever hear you do light language?
No, but do you
He
know what,
never.
Todd? No, do you know what? But the funny thing is that he used to speak in his sleep, but every time he spoke in his sleep, he would speak light language.
Wow.
No word of a lie.
Wow. See, and that's another part of what I think is coming in too, is that these things like that, like we're connected when we go into dream state,
Yeah.
and the work that we do together in dream state. I think there's more and more people recalling what's happening while they're asleep.
Mm,
And you've probably gotten messages from people, I'm sure, that have said, "Hey, you came to visit me last night."
yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that going on. There seems to be more of that going on now than ever.
Yeah. Yeah. I've sort of had people sort of turn up on my doorstep for a sort of like a healing session, and then they're like, I don't know why I'm here, I'm just really drawn to go, I just felt that I needed to be here, don't know why I'm here. And then come in, come in.
So what's happened to you over the 4 or 5 years? And I'm asking again because people are
Yeah.
waking up. I mean, like, how much has your life changed? Obviously, you've left a relationship, you've moved.
Mhm.
Uh, I mean, did you spend most of your day connecting, working with other clients and that type of thing?
So the over the sort of 4 years, I knew that I was that the relationship wasn't in resonance. Bless him, and he's an amazing person in his own right, and we'd been married for over 30 years. I got married really young,
Wow.
so it was a really long time relationship. And when I did get married, it was a case of that I was sort of, I was very much the housewife and mother. And then as I started to really wake up, it really shifted my personality, which he couldn't cope with, because
Yeah.
obviously he had this sort of wife that like vacuumed the house from top to bottom every day. And sort of had supplied him food on the table. When I was starting going into like 4 hours of meditation, light language, and doing all this crazy stuff, that he's like, what's happening to you, Nicola? So I have completely shifted and changed the way that I am as an individual. And it just sort of evolved from there. I sort of got myself my website. I started practicing more. I had more of an understanding of the shamanic way of working. So my guides actually call me, so my guides being me, actually call me a galactic shaman. So I went through this sort of phase of transmuting negative energy through my energy field.
Or your own or other people's? Or both?
My energy field.
Your
It
energy.
was crazy. Yeah. So I would take on a negative entity. I would take a negative entity into my energy field, take it from their energy into my energy, and then
Okay.
have to do like a shaman, a shaman working with entities
Yeah.
in this one. So I did almost like a bit of an apprenticeship in shamanic practices, which was very organic, really. And I was sort of guided how to transmute it through my energy field, which I would, if I took an energy on, I would take about 4 hours to
Wow.
get rid of it. I would literally have to go and meditate and do breath work and ground. So it was all practiced for the work that I do now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So it
how
was
long how long did that last? Was that like a few months or
God, it seemed like forever, because I was really kicking and screaming doing
yeah.
that. I was saying to my higher self, why would I even sign up to
Yeah.
take on a negative entity and
Mhm.
have to experience this? I really don't get it. I really don't like this. So I was kicking and screaming with the whole
Mm.
process. It was probably about, I don't know, sort of on and off about 3 to 4 months or so, something like that. But
That's a
it gave
long
me
time. That's a long time during an ascension
oh,
time.
yeah, and my poor clients. When I sort of like pulling negative energy out of them, like, like big bits of, it was like this energy that I was pulling out the solar plexus. Um,
I wonder. I wonder what happens there, and I wonder too. I got a couple of questions. So there used to be a lot of talk about implants,
Mhm.
blockages,
Yeah,
that type of thing, negative energy stored within the body,
yeah.
as spoken or defined one way or the other.
Mm,
And there doesn't seem to be as much now. Not that it's not there, but
mm.
I wonder if that was kind of like an initiation phase or a preparation phase that we've all gone through. But as a practitioner, do you notice it as much now?
I
As
do
it was
still,
then?
yeah, I do still notice it, Todd. I do
Mm.
still notice it, but it's not. I'm not really drawn to it. I just see it, and then it just, because I've evolved through my practice. Before, I'd be in there picking at the at the thing that I took out a hook once in someone's liver, and I literally had to like work with the psychic surgeon and remove it. And then
Wow.
there was like this like bit of string that went down the meridian line of the leg, hooked into the toe, and then back up the back of the leg. So I was pulling the string out as I was doing it.
Mm.
So from going from that experience, which I actually really enjoyed doing, not lying to you, it was just, oh, this is really interesting, but it was sort of looked at a different high perspective. It
Yeah.
was all again in training. And then as I sort of shifted my energy and started integrating more and more multi-dimensionalities, because they were like lining up, And then I was then bringing them in and embodying them, anchoring them into my energetic field, anchoring them down into the crystalline grid, and then really embodying them into my energetic flow, so that it allowed me to then just call upon that aspect really, really quickly. So rather than them being sort of afar and looking like they're outside of yourself, you bring them in, you integrate, you heal them, and you literally embody them in your system. And then you then have that absolute connection to them. So as you're sort of working, they sort of come in and flow. So now I would work, and it would be that I might be working in different layers of different types of light language whilst I'm practicing. So I might be working with a mantis being that I'm doing a little bit of psychic surgery, but then I might then be fluttering my eyes behind, which then brings in a different frequency of light that then clears with the eyes. Then I might be grounding and working through the physical body, and then I might then be speaking a dialect at the same time. So you work multidimensionality, but layers of multidimensional aspects that will come in. And sometimes you might actually work with just, say, an angelic. So say if I've got somebody that's just newly awakened, like today I had a beautiful lady come in, and I was working very angelically, because that level of consciousness received that level of
something she could understand, something that she could, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Go ahead.
So as you then work with high vibrational awakened souls, then you then start then going like really wacky and amazing stuff, because that is my absolute passion. I love, so I get newly awakened, which is nicey, very like twee to me. And then I get then like I had a friend of mine come in, and I brought in a multidimensional aspect that that had to be healed in a different dimension for that aspect to come in. So you heal that individual aspect of self, then you then bring that in and then embody and anchor it into their system.
Wow.
They literally feel it as the energy arrives. And some of my friends, I call them friends because they, you know, we are friends, you know, I don't like calling them clients really, but so you know, I've had people writhing around on the floor where their energetic multidimensional aspects coming on, and they're like, oh, it feels really sticky in here, and then I have to assist the integration. So it's all crazy. I love it though.
I know, it amazes me. I mean, obviously I'm married to a practitioner, and she's been doing this like 20 years.
Wow.
And there has been different phases that she's gone through as a practitioner, but I think some of that's reflective of the collective expansion as well, the collective consciousness. But it amazes me, you know, talking to practitioners, some of the things that go on, because I always look at things from, I guess I try to look at things from an energetic but literal standpoint, right? Kind of like you were talking about your husband's doing light language in his sleep, you're doing light language, he can't hear you, and you guys are probably in the ethers, you know, working hand in hand, you know what I mean? So there's always, but like there's some of the things that to me, it's almost like you guys are, you know, I've heard the term midwives, you know, facilitators of people's opening people up, basically getting them started, you know. I mean, do you have a lot of people come back to you, or do you find that in 2020 that you open them up once or twice and then they pretty much take it from there?
Well, what I'm sort of, the work that I'm doing now is that I sort of have, you know, I've gone from actually activating people's light language when they first wake up. So as I sort of evolved, they sort of followed and still sort of, you know, sort of followed me along really. And as they need an integration, then I go in and then upgrade them as so it's almost like I'm a step ahead, so that I get that integrated within my system. They need it, then I then do that for them, and then it just sort of evolves. So like
it's mutual. I mean, you're serving yourself while you serve the collective, and they're the physical representation of the collective. The aspects that, and there's no right or wrong answer. I'm just curious because that's just how I'm built. But the aspects that you work with, do you consider them? And I know in the end, everything's one, and I'm not making fun of that at all. I'm just saying that at this, because there are levels, like you said, and layers. But do you feel like that these aspects are you?
Yes.
Or do you feel, oh, you do? You definitely do. Okay.
Sorry, my aspect.
That's okay. I'm very used to it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Morgan,
absolutely.
Morgan speaks it. She just doesn't do it publicly.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's another thing. That's something that I'm really passionate about. My higher self is really on to me about is, it's something that I'm really sort of aware of is there are so many people that have activated their light language and actually they don't know how powerful it is,
Yeah.
and that it really is very, very, it just clears and cuts through any density just like that. And as you start to blend with your multidimensional aspects, which are you, which you're
Yeah.
accessing those fragments of self, which is your wholeness. You bring in different dialects as you go. So you
Yeah.
might integrate a mantis, and they will have that dialect that will come through. An Arcturian are very, very quick. Angelics, they're very slow.
Yeah.
And so you get sort of all these different dialects that come in, but the more you sort of suppress that, it's just like you're having a diamond and you just literally just pop it in the drawer, and it's not having that diamond out and giving it a good old polish. It is such a gift. And so one of my things that I'm doing is talking to people that have activated their light language, that are really stepping into their power, their authentic self, and having little conscious chats with them,
Yeah.
and just to really sort of get it out there a little bit more public, because some people really get it a little bit sort of nervous about light language, because because they don't see it as a linear language and they don't understand it to that linear effect. They then have the fear kick in, and then they don't know what they're actually, they're, well, what is that, what does that mean, and then they
Yeah.
start then to quiz it. And it's usually, actually, as you work into the energy field, it's because there's a link between a past life, that where there was sort of suppressed, or sort of in a past life, because of speaking it. So there's that sort of energy that needs to be cleared with them, to allow that to flow through them, to enable that to be part
Yeah.
of their way of being their authentic self.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think
it's
it's a powerful thing. And oftentimes I'll say, when somebody comes on the show, or if even if it's privately, do you know what you said? Some will say yes, and some will say no, and there's no right or wrong. And what I found is that's why I had brought it up at the beginning with what you were talking about, because it's almost to me like if we're a computer, and we're running on an operating system, and the operating system has programs, and somehow or another our operating system got antiquated or outdated or replaced or something. And it's like with the higher energies, the other operating system that had been dormant is coming back up. And the light language to me is like a program. It's like you
yeah,
push a button, and that stuff starts. And all I know is all my experiences being around it with Morgan on the show and stuff. Most all the time, there's an energetic impact and influence that you can feel, and it is a language. It's
yeah,
just not, like you said, it's not linear and it's not human. It's like,
it's of
and
the light. Everybody holds it.
yeah,
Everybody, it's the evolution of communication.
yeah,
So it's moving from the linear word to the language of the universe. And then as the evolution of mankind, then you go into telepathy.
yeah,
So the whole system of it is the sort of moving through the evolution of language through the
yeah,
universe.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, sometimes you get activations which would be like language coding, so transmissions where you may not actually get an understanding of what those dialects mean.
yeah,
And then sometimes you have dialects which will come through, but they cut through energy and they release things.
yeah,
And then sometimes you get then transmissions that we absolutely can translate. So sometimes I might say something in light language and have an absolute knowing what I'm saying as a result of that dialect that's coming through. So the more that you use it, the more you integrate it, the more understanding you have with it.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I was pretty much, I mean, I'd heard it on the shows, and then not too many times, because this is going way back. Like we're at like 2,100 shows now, and this would be back like at 300. And the show wasn't that expansive at that time. But then Morgan came over the second time she came over in 2018, and she started speaking it. And I knew what she was saying right away. Like
yeah,
she spoke like eight different dialects from the get-go, and I could tell the difference. I knew what she was saying. It usually involved a ritual or a ceremony or an activation, and yeah, it was pretty. And then since then, I've learned, I can listen to people and I can recognize certain things. What I've noticed, like I do a little bit myself, but I don't do it. I've never done it on camera. Normally, I'd only done it by myself, and then I've done it with Morgan maybe 2 or 3 times when I was moved to do it. But what I notice with myself and a few other people is that it sounds, for me, it sounds very organic. It sounds very much of the earth, like like say primordial, and you can hear the link. I can hear the link between, let's just say, like the earth's root race languages and the star family languages. It's like you can hear the evolution of it, and I find that really interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy, and the more that the higher the frequency and the dimension and the resonance of the consciousness that you're tapping into, the more of the dialect becomes less linear sounding.
Yeah.
So you get like clicks,
Click. Yeah.
and the breath is a dialect in itself, which is, so, when and whistles and things like that, that actually to the human ego mind's a little bit like, what's that all about?
See, that's what happened to me. So like, we put, and I talk about this almost every show, we put our hands together at night when we lay down, and then we connect. And 99% of the talking or the transmitting or channeling she does. And so there's been many times that I'll just start involuntarily, but I'll keep my tonality down most of the time, and it'll start coming out. And it's a very interesting one. I've never heard it. I've never heard anyone else. I'm sure it's out there, but I've never heard anyone do it. But what it is, it's very fast. It's very, very fast, and there's no consonant sounds. It's all of the A, E, I, O, U. It's all the vowel sounds, and it's very, very fast, almost like a staccato, like like that.
Yes.
And I notice my breathing gets real choppy, not because I'm like struggling to breathe or not, but it's almost like the breathing is part of the transmission.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is, because it's coming from, so I'm just getting information now. So what it's doing is that it's not only coming through the voice, it's coming from the energetic field.
Yeah.
So that's what's happening. So the projection of the energetic flow not only comes from the voice, it comes from the actual energetic field as the resonance. So there's some so sometimes when you have, I can't remember her name, you had her on the other day, some beautiful lady, lives in Portugal at the moment.
Maya.
Yes. So she can sit there and just look and just project her energy through the camera.
Yeah.
And that's just something that I've been doing a lot lately, actually, more so actually lately, is that you project your energy through the camera, and the resonance of the energy is actually felt the other side. And that's that sort of when I did the transfiguration, sort of less of that the linear dialect, which is that that sort of dialect.
Yeah.
It literally comes through with the breath. So yeah, absolutely. And if you find that sort of choppiness that's coming through the breath as well, then that's what you're doing. You're tapping into that aspect of yourself that's coming through you, that is then affecting the energetic flow of the holographic system that you're actually residing in that very moment. So as you're laying on that bed, which actually it actually doesn't exist, but energetically it does, and the resonance of that, you're connecting to that. So it's beautiful. Well done.
I can tell too.
Really hold it.
Yeah, I can tell too. Like, because I mean, we're obviously we have a unique relationship, but I can tell too, because of the she brings in her higher aspects, different aspects, and what happens is, depending on the tonality of the voice, to me, that's what it seems to be. The prerequisite is it alerts a part of me. I don't know. It's almost like a compliment. you know, I don't want to say a
Nice.
polarity, but more of a compliment. And
Yeah.
depending on what the subject is and depending on what's happening. And then other times there's nothing said. And the next day I'll be like, did you know this happened last night? She was like, yeah. Uh, or she'll tell me something and then and it's like right when I lay down, it all comes in and then she'll tell me and I'm like, oh, wow, that's what I just, so it's weird because,
Yeah.
it's one thing for one person to do it, but when there's two or more and these things are starting to happen, they're
Yeah.
actually starting to happen. So,
Yeah.
have you had any experience like that? I mean, I know you talked about your clients, feeling the things they were feeling, and obviously you can
Yeah.
see and sense what they're doing. But were you
Yeah.
actually like two people seeing the same thing?
Yeah,
Or
well, it's funny, like it's that I was sort of probably about a year ago, so 18 months ago, I was sort of getting together some of my clients that I activated, and we was doing these sort of evolving soul sort of groups around at my house, in my sort of in my space in the garden, and so we would sort of get together, and when you get a big group of people that speak light language together, it goes crazy.
how
So
many
then
people did
we
you have? How many people did y'all have?
So, I mean, sometimes we'd have not like masses and masses, probably about 11 people. So, my evolving soul group, we would
That's
sort
a
of
lot
get
of people.
together.
That's a
Yeah, but when you get them together and all start toning, and then the light language starts, the work that you can do together when we come together and we speak light language, because we all sort of like interlink, and you have all
yeah.
these different. We created these massive, great big portals in the middle of the circle, and then we would, some people would actually see the vortex of energy coming in. Some people would, start to tone. Some people would, so we all would be that. It's almost like an orchestra. We would be toning light language, and then somebody would
It
come
is
in.
like a
Oh, it's beautiful when it
It is like an
happens.
orchestra. That is like an
Yeah.
orchestra. I've been to. Have you ever been to a gathering where everybody gets in a circle and sits down? Have you ever
Mm.
done that? I forget what they call it, but I went to one in January down
Mm.
in Florida, and so there was people with drums. There was people doing light language, and I was actually there to film it, and
Ah.
and so. But when it got to me, a girl like two people away from me had a guitar, and she was strumming the guitar, and I don't know what happened. I just looked at her, she looked at me, and then I just started doing a conscious rap, and it was
Oh,
the same type
wow.
of thing.
That was.
And I said to the people, I was like, oh, I don't. I feel weird because I didn't do light language. They're like, that's light language. And I guess everything's a
Yeah.
remix. Everything's a remix, especially when you have two or more people. So I can imagine having 11 people,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it is an orchestra.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's amazing, and the where you're sort of coming in together, and also what happens is, as a practitioner, when I sort of work for my client, is that what I was going through a phase of, and that what I still do now to a certain extent, is that if there is something within that person that needs healing,
Yeah.
and it's mirrored within me,
Yeah.
as I clear their energy, I clear me. So
Yes.
I think that's really important to sort of for people to know, is that there is always something that we share. So
That's right.
as I was going through this sort of phase of literally clearing my own energy, so bringing in the codes into my heart space, into my solar plexus, but I was actually clearing me, but where I was linked in their energy field, I was then actually bringing that energy out of them. Once I'd cleared the similarity in them and me, then I would then go and work on them. So it's almost like a back, it's like a piggyback on their
Yeah.
healing that I'm
Yeah.
getting healing.
Well, I think that people talk about an equal energy exchange, and I think this is another thing that's not detected consciously, but it's starting to come into play because the veils are gone. We're getting used to it, or however you want to explain it. But and that is there is an exchange. There is
Yeah.
something that occurs on both sides. We just can't really see it, or haven't been able to see it. But I think we're starting to be able to see it. You
Mm.
mentioned the mantids, and
Yeah.
I have for some reason, when I was a little kid, and I'm sure that there's something I don't know if I blocked it out or you just whatever, but there was this almost obsession with the mantis, the praying
Mm.
mantis, and uh, and so it was a really big deal. And then I've not run into but just two or three people that have had interaction with the mantis, or at least that have talked about it with me.
Hmm.
I've listened to Simon Parks talk about it, and a few other people that are, pretty good sized followings on YouTube. But what's your experience with the mantids? I mean, what are their
Yeah.
characteristics? What
Oh,
are their specialties? Because they
yeah.
seem to be very, very highly intelligent.
That's
And
yes,
yeah, okay.
absolutely. So, okay, so my mantis beings and my aspects actually presented themselves during a healing session.
Mhm.
So I was in a healing session, I was in full flow, and then I felt this energy that was sort of sort of like straddling, well, not straddling up beside me because they're massive. And I wanted to start to speak to this person about that I was working with a mantis being. But do you know what they did, Todd? What he did, he literally stopped me speaking. I could not. I tried to talk, but because and my higher self said no, don't talk. But it was just about to come out. Cut my vocal cords. Like I could not speak. So they're very, very strict.
Mhm.
Okay, they're very, very strict. They are like so super efficient. So I was a little bit, to be honest with you, when I first started working with, and it's a male energy, when I first felt that energy coming in, I was a little bit sort of like, okay, right, it's okay. So I did feel a little bit of fear come in me, to be honest with you, but I knew that it was right that I needed to be working with that aspect. And then and it took probably a couple of months of me really sort of getting to know working with him, that I started then to blend with his energy a little bit more, and I started to understand his traits. Do you know when you get a
Yeah.
personality that might be a
Mhm.
bit like a school teachery type of
Mhm.
personality? And he started to warm to me, and I started to warm to him, if you can say that.
And
And
this
then
is
it
and
was,
this is an aspect of you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So as he sort of come in, as a human egoic mind, Nicola was like, what's going on here? It was the
Yeah.
fear from Nicola that made me feel a little bit uneasy. At the very beginning, because of my voice, I just couldn't talk. And also my little music center broke that as well.
Just at the
Didn't,
perfect time.
yeah,
See, but that's just a coincidence. People are like, that's a
yeah,
coincidence. Like, yeah, but when you
maybe, but
yeah.
so
But when you have
anyways.
like 20 of them in 6 months, like, okay, well, you can't have 20 coincidences.
No, no, exactly. So I was like, okay, right, cool. So I want to get to know you a little bit more. So I sort of meditated on it. I said to him, I want to see your face. So he presented himself one time when I was sort of laying down, just so I sort of meditate at night just before I go off to bed. And I sort of asked my higher self, have I got any downloads tonight? Have I got any upgrades? Excited for an upgrade. And so the mantis being was sort of coming in, and he shows himself with a so at the back of the throat. So he was sort of coming in stronger, and he's blending a lot more with my energy. Sorry, I've got some energy there. I need to go. So as I'm sort of blending with the energy, it was almost that I felt that energy needed to be embodied in my system.
Of course.
Now, I've been through quite a lot of embodiments during the 6 months that I've left home. And because I'm really sort of free flowing with the work that I'm doing right now, there's no restrictions on my, how I'm evolving. And I was laying in bed, and this was just a really weird experience. I felt his energy sort of almost like, do you know, could you imagine like there's a glove, and then there's his energy comes in, and then he sort of comes into my energy field. But as they sort of integrate into your system, you feel that you are like 11 feet tall,
Yeah.
that you feel that you've got this sort of like eyes this big. So as when I saw him, his eyes are like massive, so his head's massive. They're big beings. And you when you sort of really start to really integrate, you take on the energy and the
Yeah.
almost like a physical form of the being that's coming in. And it
Yeah.
sounds really weird, but his
No.
arm, like the arms come up like this, and then
Yeah.
I start crunching up
No,
like
I
a
think that's
mantis.
it. And I've I've had something like that happen to me. I've bared witness
Oh,
to Morgan many times.
oh,
I mean, I've
cool.
had a dragon claw on my chest, you know, and I kid you not, and I've seen her morph into many things. But
All right,
uh,
that's all right. Then I can talk about.
so like one of the things in 2016 I guess I in my own way integrated after probably a couple of years, couple of 2 3 years, all aspects of dark and light, with the universe.
Mhm,
I wasn't, you know how it is when you first wake up and these things are coming in, and they seem external. They're
mm,
more external than they are internal. And
mm,
then there seems to be a commonality with people that come on the show and people I talk to, where as time goes on, you start to embody these essences and these beings and
yeah,
energies and all that. One of the things I see happening is a wider acceptance of what the human aspects call dark,
yeah.
and a lesser need, therefore, for whatever reason, for protection,
Mm,
because we're our own protection. But in terms of the different energies of the different aspects of yourself that have presented themselves to you,
mhm.
have you had any that were, because you just said you were a little fearful of the mantis, and I can see why. But have you had any that you resisted, that you felt like were not yours, and maybe they weren't yours, or that were just dark and you just like, not today, pal.
Yeah.
And
I
how did
have actually
how
been caught. Yeah, I have been caught up in a galactic war.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, which I
Probably not
didn't
going to go
understand.
talk about that really. It took me about a week to actually release all of that, and that was a really
Now
surreal experience.
that was because that happened to me. That happened to me like early on, and I didn't even know a whole lot about the galactics. That happened to
Yeah.
me like 2014, 2015, for about 2 years. And I would get all these memories. I wonder, were those just memories coming to the surface, just like, say, past traumas in this incarnation that are coming to the surface to be healed, to be brought
Mm,
into alignment? I wonder if that's how that
yeah.
works.
Do you know what? Actually, you saying that, I'm getting a nod on that. It's like it was like an echo that I was experiencing. So what I was experiencing, it was actually, I don't mind saying, the reptilians that came in, but but at the time it felt so real, and it was real in
Mm.
that timeline. But it was almost that it had happened, but it was like a,
Like a residual.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was really quite
That's how it
surreal.
felt to me.
Yeah, and I actually, honestly, no word of a lie. I wish I'd kept the picture, but I deleted it because I just would scared me. My pupils actually went long.
Wow. Yeah.
Honest-
Mine are really dark. Mine are almost black. My eyes are almost black, and
Yeah, we
so
won't go down that route on
I never
tonight, but
seen my mine never. But but no, because like this would always be played out, and at that time I had more recall. Uh, in regard, well, as I was waking up, I had more recall into what was happening in dream state. And in
mm,
dream state, I was flying around, and I was like, supercharging wherever I went, blasting it with light, chasing the darkness out, exposing the darkness. And it was this whole dark and light thing.
yeah,
But as time went on, it settled down, and I
yeah,
felt like, and there was some reptilian stuff that went on like that. And it just, I don't know, it just kind of went away. And to me, it was
yeah.
almost like, I think, like, for me, it's just my opinion, but to me, like, the galactic stuff is like our most recent history. Like, that's the last
Mm,
incarnations before the earthly incarnations. I mean, to me, that's like the
mm,
closest memories to us beyond
mm,
anything, like, let's say, an
yeah,
earthly incarnation. But
mm,
I don't know. To me, it's information, it's data, it's code,
yeah.
come up for a reason, and
Yeah,
and
and it's all experience. And if I hadn't have experienced that, I would never have gone down the route of transmuting negative energy and then actually being the
exactly.
healer that
Well,
I am
you
now.
wouldn't
So
have been capable. You wouldn't have been
yeah,
capable.
no, no,
But
absolutely. So
if
yeah,
you still had biases and prejudices, you wouldn't be capable of doing the things that you do. That's a good
yeah,
point. That
yeah,
really is.
absolutely. So everything happens for a reason. And and when we say put protection up, maybe actually you need to actually experience dealing with an astral being, which are
Yeah.
quite easy to just to flick off. Really, they are really easy to get rid of. They just
I think things are different now. I
yeah,
don't think
yeah,
it's just me. Yeah, I really don't. Because if I go back to 2012, 2013, 2014, it was brutal. I mean, there was, and it wasn't just me. You know, if you go back to 2012, 13, 14, 15, there was a lot of empath support groups. There was a lot of talk about protection and removing implants and all. It seems like something's changed. It seems
yeah.
like that more of the universal energy has been brought to the 0 point. I guess that's one way I would explain.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's absolutely right. Is that it's not, you know, there are still some people that will play in that, you
Yeah.
know, like, you know, you'll get
It's
people
probably not
going
a good idea
through.
now. It's probably not a good idea now. This whole instant manifestation thing, like if you have the wrong intention and you're not in alignment, you are gonna get hit with a 2x4 over the head, you know, with
Mm,
the universe. I mean,
yeah, let's it's really good that we experienced it back in that now moment and
yeah,
not now, and that we can literally sort of say, well, okay, so we're bringing
yeah.
in our lighter aspects and let's work
Well, and I
on
think
just shining a light
yeah,
on
and I
it.
think to me too, back then there was more. Uh, I've always referred to the fourth dimension as the astral level,
Yeah, yeah.
because I noticed when I woke up that in the astral there was ego, there was forces that were, let's just say, there was more darkness than there was, you know what I mean? And so I think maybe that's been leveled off, or more of us have stepped into the fifth dimension, or whatever you want to call it. These are just words.
Yeah,
And maybe that's and obviously this has occurred due to the work that each of these individuals have done. That's
yeah,
the bottom line, you know.
yeah, absolutely. We're starting to tap into higher resonances, higher dimensions.
Who's that?
Um, this is Louise. She
Louise.
always photo bombs. Yeah,
Hey,
Louise. She's my
Louise.
little rescue dog. Yeah, she
Oh,
always sort of comes in and yeah, there she is.
hey,
She's a little
Louise.
She's really funny. But yeah, no, I think this where we're anchoring in a higher frequency of light, that we're, you know, whether we're conscious that we're integrating the multidimensional aspects or not, you know, that it is that evolution of who we are, that we're
Yeah.
stepping into our sovereignty, and that actually when we're in our sovereignty, then you do not need protection because you are
No,
the light.
you are. That's it. You
Yeah,
know,
that's the bottom line.
yeah. But you got to
Yeah,
own it. You can't own all the angels and not own the devils. You know, I mean,
yeah,
it's you got to own it all. And really, frankly, we don't have a choice, and we're all being pushed that direction. But I really think that we've done a heck of a job. I mean, I think we've done a lot more than we could comprehend. Number one, and that we could give. You know, we don't give ourselves enough credit. Not that we need to start going to give ourselves credit, because as soon as we do that, we fall out of humility. But I really think we've done a heck of a job. I think we're the darlings of the
yeah,
universe. I wanted
yeah.
to ask you. I don't want to run out of time. I want to make sure that you have enough time. Is there something you want to do? Do you want to do a transmission? Do you want to do a blessing? Do you want to do a song and a dance, or whatever you want to do? But is there
Can I
something you
just
want
actually
to?
just say what you did actually ask me a question about what did the mantis do, and they work very much with the insectoid races, which I work with very much.
This was okay.
Yeah,
So I asked you that question.
yeah, and we didn't.
I
Yeah,
haven't.
but they're having a
Yeah.
go at me for not actually
Well,
because they get a bad rap.
there's a reason for that. Okay, because when I asked you the question, I was thinking to myself as I was asking the question, because we all can do that now. We're multi-streaming, and I thought, well, have I seen a mantis in adulthood? You know, and I was like, no, but I have seen insectoids, and one night these three insectoids came into my hotel room. This had been
Oh,
about 2 years ago, and one of them was my grandmother, who's been a big part of my journey. Okay, since I woke up, she was the first one
beautiful.
that came to me from the other side, and so on. But anyway, they worked on me, uh, surgically. They worked on me. They worked in my body.
Amazing.
So my
Yeah,
impression was, as I was listening to you starting to answer that, was that they had like this, obviously this very high intelligence, and
yeah,
B, this kind of a specialty or capacity for that type of intricate work? I don't know. So go ahead. And how were you
Yeah,
linking?
yeah. I mean, they literally work. So when I'm working, I know that I'm working with them because my three fingers come in, and then I then sort of cup so I bring the sharpener into this hand, and then I start working in here, and then it's like it's like little, like surgery, like, do you know keyhole surgery? Almost feels like that. So as I go into the say, I don't know, like the knee or wherever it is that needs this actually sort of physical body stuff, that I go in, and then energetically enable sort of merging lines to open, and it so they sort of work alongside the mantis actually. So I bring my mantis in, but then I work with the
So they're
insectoids.
separate.
Yeah. So
Okay.
they are actually psychic surgeons that come in and work through me, but they are not an aspect of me. It's the mantis that brings them in, but then I work with the insectoid. So yeah, so the psychic surgery is more on the physical body level, the energetic field, and then you can also then work with the mantis that work more sort of galactically, which then brings in the integration and the healing of within the quantum rather than the holographic system. So it's almost like layers. So you have the energetic field of the individual, you then have the energetic field of the holographic system, and then you have then different templates that work in the into the galactic. So you'll go in multidimensionally through all time and space. So you can then travel through portals, which is really cool. So you go through portals, wormholes, and then you then land on like platforms as well, which is really crazy. And then you then get the good goat, and then you then go off, and then you sort of go off into spaceships and stuff like that.
It's going to be interesting.
Love it.
It's going to be interesting when we come out of this thing. And I'm in no rush. I love it down here. But it's going to be interesting to see with full memory, what we're going to do. I was told, this would have been like 3-4 years ago. I was told that when we're done, we'll be like universal healers because we'll have so many different, seeds from around the universe that we'll be able to go to different parts of the multiverse because of our, huge expanse of DNA or coding or light, whatever you want to call it, and be able to offer a whole lot to wherever we're serving. So that makes sense to me.
It's as above, so below. So we are. It's almost like they say to me, it's like we're only strong as our weakest link.
Yeah.
And so that the earth is seen almost like a little bit of a weak link. So the more that we ascend up, it's actually helping other races.
Absolutely it is. Absolutely.
Above. So, this is why they're also helping us actually send up, is because actually it helps them too. So
absolutely it does.
Is, when I actually heal, I heal. So it's
absolutely we're offering as much or more than we're getting, and that's the truth, because what we're doing, we're actually expanding base templates, base blueprints. We're actually creating again, we're remixing the Akashic with our experience to create in a more expansive universal presence. I mean, I believe we're the darlings of the universe. I think for a long time they probably thought, what the hell's taking them so long? But I think now they're probably going, hey, you know what?
I'm rocking it.
Yeah. And I talk to them all the time, and I tell them, hey, you know what? I'm here. I'm the one down here doing the work. And so
I'm on the front line. Back me up.
I will be heard. I will have a voice in this, and if I'm missing something and I don't get it, and I might say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, if there's such thing as wrong, then I'm willing to live with that. But I'm going to be, I'm going to have a voice on this team, because without the human aspect, there is no team.
Yeah.
That's
how they get in here. Mm-hmm. They get in through us.
That's right.
So, because they can't deal with this density and we're in this physical form, that's how they're coming, they're beaming in through that, us enabling us to hold space for that frequency. So we are, we're doing a really important job here, and I think everybody should know that.
I want to ask you one last question, and if you want to do anything after that, that's fine. But I wanted to ask you, because you made a comment earlier, and I've wondered about this. So for like that, the client you had, where you went into the angelic aspect of you, because that's what she could relate to. Mm-hmm. For a lot of people, I think that's what happened. That's what happened to me. When it was with me, it was 6 Bibbits, Jesus and Magdalene. Okay. And so, and everything, there was a lot of, it was that type of nomenclature. It was that type of, um, you know, energy of communication. It was the biblical, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but as time went on, that's changed. And when I go to tap into those parts of me that brought me to the party, Archangel Michael, Jesus, and so on, uh, they're still right there. But
Yeah.
it's weird because they're in here, and to me, and I've had some galactic aspects actually physically step into me,
Mm-hmm.
as Morgan is my witness,
Mm-hmm.
and so I know there's some of that going on too. But do you feel that the angelic, let's just call it the angelic, and let's say the galactics are here, angelics are over here, do you think they're one and the same? Or do you think that they're
Yeah.
different aspects of us? I'm just curious.
There's difference. So, from my perspective of my truth of this, so I
Mhm.
don't tend to deal with the angelics a lot. And this is going to sound really horrible, and they know exactly what I'm going to say, is that they actually really annoy me because they're so slow. Because I work really quick.
Well, that's
Because
because
I
you're
work with
you're
the
you're probably
Arcturians, which are like fast, fast, fast.
you're
So they
probably
know that
more
when they
more
come in, that
galactic. You're
they're,
like, yeah.
I
See,
do laugh.
you're like Morgan. See, Morgan's the same
Oh,
way. Morgan's like snap, 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 and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute now. Let's see what happened here. What
yeah.
happened there? But
So
I think
yes,
that makes sense to me. That
yeah.
makes sense to me. That
But I think actually, so when I worked with an angelic aspect of myself, they do not look like we think they look like.
yeah.
I'm going to put that out there. They don't look all fluffy, great, big, beautiful, feathery wings. Put it that way. They don't look like that.
The ones I've seen do. The
All
ones
right,
I, the
that's the
ones I,
perception that they're giving you.
yeah, the ones I've seen were 12 foot tall,
Mm,
golden wings, beautiful,
yeah.
beautiful, like porcelain, beautiful,
Mm. Tukuna bashi to the bari yo moko bala kita la basho e wala so get some information. Ma ne kisho ba hito da ba ki kieno to do ja sha ta de yeterish. Ana bakita da basho ba yeto ta ba yo moko bala kita da sha. Ta de kita da boko ba yana bako bala kishi ta de rishi ta da bari mo to ko bala kita da moshi. Ala kita da ma sho ba kita da ba shu ba I kita da ma ko bolo ko bala kisha da be kita da ba shu. So there are different levels. Abakita da bashana ba kita ba ko da ba shu mari da ba shu ba yo ko ra ti shinish. They actually reside all through all time and space. Amaki Tarabasha. Tarabisha and the Madagabalika Benabalu by the Shobaki Tarabash. Some are on the earth plane. Shamadagabasha, and it's almost like they evolve like we do through the stars. Alaki Tarabashana, the Gita Tabasha Madagabola, Balaki Toshami, Balaki Tarishi Tarana, we Bolagabon, and Maki Tarishi. So they almost like have like a little galaxy of their own. Abakishrane, dear, but Pitu Balikishanati, the Rabachi Tamawashi. That make you put the balakita dana where kia bolaki dana the way shana di. Alakita that shana kita the shubakita that shana where did that about it more like the shana meet that about shu. Surapshi. Oh, could I think that she make good about? So they just create something beside and they're just like saying that bad mouthing us on TV. Balakita the board shana to this. I know that I love angelics, but it was just a way of saying just a minute. So yeah, so they actually work all through time and space, but they hold like a resonance throughout the whole of the galaxies as well. So they work in unison with the energetic quantum field. So they have sort of levels. So we would have more of this sort of astral type of evolutionary.
So I just want
to ascend.
it's just I'm just a very curious person, or curious soul. Let me put it that way. And I just wonder how this all works sometimes. And I think, okay, well, like we're the center, we're the epicenter. And I'm not saying this is gospel or this is my opinion, but like, so my galactic aspects, for instance, I can understand that they're living at the same time, and all that stuff. But I guess I put it this way: when Todd Medina, the physical body expires, Todd Medina, the consciousness, which is a part of the whole, whatever my name is, whatever that is, the whole soul, will become an essence or an energy such as that maybe, 5 incarnations down, I'm on a new planet. We even have more polarity because we want to get crazy again. And I'm throwing up prayers to this consciousness that somehow or another presents itself. And it's this one here, this aspect of me here, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how it works, but I find it quite.
Yeah, it's so confusing. I've sort of like tried to sort of sit with that. And when I've had downloads from the Arcturian children, where they usually send me the children because my ego mind can't sort of cope with the detailed information, so they send me their children to talk to me about the quantum field, but which is quite bizarre really. But what they sort of told me, the children told me, is that it's almost like, think of, and I've sort of spoken to some of my clients before, is that imagine that you've got a big ball of cotton wool bud, like a big cotton wool, and every single aspect and timeline of your fragmented soul is each individual strand of that cotton wool. So in your totality, you are that cotton wool buds. You are everything in the now moment.
You're the drop in the ocean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is so crazy, because it's like, even like you said about the weak link in the chain. The human is the hero. You know what I mean? I mean, but like what I'm saying is that it's a simultaneous truth. And I've been shown this since 2011, but I got shown it again. It was like last week. I was outside, and I was being shown how both sides of the paradox are true. Like, so where we are, let's just say as an example, we are the weakest link, but we're also the strongest one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's some type of weird science or equation there where it works both ways.
Yeah, the universe is so paradoxical. It is that, and it is that.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the answer.
And that's been
everybody
hard.
Will have it. Yeah, everybody will have their own perception on everything, and that's where it then is that very paradoxical in the whole process. So it's great.
That's right.
Crazy. It's crazy.
So okay, man, this is a very cool way to start the show. I'd love to collaborate with you again down the road later.
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah, and I wish you the very best with your move. And it sounds like you've cleared a lot of space in your vessel, so I'm sure there will be a divine partner walking in the door soon. And when that happens, we probably won't hear anything. We probably won't hear anything from you for a while after that. But thank you for the work that you're doing and your service to you. Yeah, and we'll get together again later in the year. And if I can do anything for you, just reach out to me or Liani, and
thank you.
See what we can do to help you. Okay.
Yeah, it's been lovely talking to you. Thank you.
Yeah, very, very. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you so much.
Okay. See you later.